All right, everybody, I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing The Cardinal of the Kremlin. It's in the dark here. The Cardinal of the Kremlin by Tom Clancy. This is the very first Tom Clancy book I ever read. It's the book that got me hooked on Tom Clancy. Now, this is his fourth overall published novel. You know, he did Red Storm Rising, he did Hunt for Red October, he did Patriot Games. This was his fourth one, came out in the late 80s, I think 87-ish. It's the first one I ever picked up and read, and man, this is the book that got me hooked on Tom Clancy. Probably remains today one of my favorite Clancy books just because of the fact that it was the first. You always love your first the most. And that goes for everything in life. What about these covers? I've got the hardcover version, and then I got the little paperback version. What do I like about, well, I think I kind of like them both. I think they're both fine. They both say big, bold Tom Clancy, you know. This is a thriller novel. This is a Jack Ryan novel. This is a big, they've got the big. I think I would lean slightly more to the hardcover just because, this has a weird missile on it or something. Now, that's got a weird jet on it that has nothing to do with the story. This has a picture of the Star Wars defense system. Now, do you guys know what the Star Wars defense system is? For those of you that did not grow up in the 1980s during Ronald Reagan's presidential 8 years of being the president, Ronald Reagan talked about Star Wars defense system like every night on the news. It was just like this big deal. Because back in the 80s, we were afraid that the Russians were going to, and us were going to go to nuclear war. Every day in school it was talked about. It was the thing. And the Russians had missiles pointed at us. We had missiles pointed at them. And there was this Star Wars defense system that Ronald Reagan had come up with scientists and NASA, that they were going to put satellites up in orbit that as soon as, because to shoot if the Russians shoot a missile at us, it's going to be hard for us to shoot it down before it reaches us unless we can shoot it from outer space. And so there was a system of satellites and mirrors and laser beams and all sorts of stuff up in outer space that was going to shoot these missiles down just as soon as the Russians launched them. And it scared the Russians shitless. It did. It was literally the end of the Cold War. The Star Wars defense system was literally the end of the Cold War because Ronald Reagan didn't back down from it. Gorbachev said, no, that's not fair. Ronald Reagan was like, I'm not backing down. We're going to do it. And you will stand no chance in a nuclear war against us because we will just snuff your nuclear bombs out of the air and you can't do anything about ours. And it really, if you watch, there's a couple of specials on PBS about this very subject. And it lays it out beautifully. But this is what this book is about. Let's talk about the Tom Clancy book, okay? So the Tom Clancy book has this super awesome prologue of this assassin, this Afghan assassin, who's named the Archer, and he shoots these helicopters out of the air. And it just gets the book off to a dynamite start. This Afghani assassin shooting helicopters out of the air, and his name is the Archer, and he's just a super badass. And then we get involved in all of the political intrigue that goes on in Russia and the KGB and all that stuff wrapped around the Cold War and these missiles that are pointed, all these nuclear missiles that are pointed at the U.S. and all of the U.S. missiles that are pointed at Russia. And all of this stuff is happening, and there's a mole in the Russian KGB nicknamed the Cardinal. So he's an American spy. He's a Russian guy, but he's spying for the Americans. And they've nicknamed him the Cardinal of the Kremlin. And he is feeding the United States a lot of information through different couriers, if you know what a courier is. So this is an interesting thing about this book is and there's actually a movie called The Courier starring Cumberbatch, which explains a lot about what couriers are in the day. And like the spy, if the spy himself gets caught, he can be put to death, and there's nothing, and in international law, there's nothing that can be done about it. That's why the spies would use couriers. And the couriers, if the courier gets caught, he just has to say, I don't know what was in the bag. I was just asked to carry it to the United States. And so they're called couriers. And so this book is a lot about couriers. And by the way, that movie with Cumberbatch called The Courier is absolutely fantastic. And this book deals a lot in couriers, where the spies, they get their information, they put them in baggages and envelopes and on microfilm and whatever, and then they give them to a courier who does the legwork of getting it back and forth to Russia and the United States and vice versa. Well, the couriers get caught all the time. But the couriers, for whatever reason, the law of spies, the law of these international spycraft laws, the couriers are just like, hey, you got to let them go. You know, whatever they were, they're dumb. They don't know. They're just mules. They're just couriers. They don't know what's going on. So this book has a lot to do with this spycraft of the Cardinal of the Kremlin just giving information to these couriers, and these couriers keep getting caught over and over. Back and forth it goes, you know. But it's all dealing with what the Russians may or may not know about the Star Wars defense system. What the United States, you know, because the United States doesn't want them to know everything, because a lot of it was bullshit. A lot of it was bluff. A lot of it was bluffing. That Ronald Reagan was bluffing, that we got these satellites that will shoot your missiles out of the sky, right? He was bluffing the fuck out of these motherfuckers. And it worked. It ended the Cold War. And so there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. And the thing is we've got these spies. And one of the great spies in this is the Foley family. They're Americans, but they live in Russia, and they're a family. And they're pretending to be business people, right? But the Russians don't think that their Foleys could be spies, because what stupid people would be... You can't be that stupid and be a spy and have your whole family live in Russia with you, because that would just be stupid. So they just think, well, they're not spies, clearly. I mean, clearly nobody's that dumb. But that was what they were counting on. They're like, yeah, we got our whole family lives over in Russia, and we're all spies, but you don't think we're spies, because nobody would think anybody would be that stupid to have the whole family. And so, you know, because maybe the Russians were like, well, maybe if it was just him and his wife, that's still pretty fucking risky. If it was a single guy, then they'd be like, he's a spy. There's no reason for a single dude to be in Russia unless he a spy, and especially if he's American or British. He a spy if he's single, but the Foleys, they bring their whole family over. They're all spies. It's fantastic. It's such cool. But the couriers keep getting snatched off, and they're letting go and whatever. But the Cardinal of the Kremlin, the main spy, he wants to defect. And this is, in essence, sort of like the Hunt for Red October, where the captain of the Red October, Russian submarine, wants to defect, right? Well, the Cardinal of the Kremlin, he wants to defect also. So he's given about all the information he can give to the Americans, and now he's like, please help me out of the country. And that's where Jack Ryan, this is a Jack Ryan thriller. I haven't even mentioned him yet. It's a Jack Ryan thriller, and Jack Ryan, just like he helped Ramius, the Russian submarine captain, escape Russia, he has now got to help the Cardinal of the Kremlin escape Russia. And does he or does he not succeed? This is a thrilling book by Tom Clancy. One of my favorites. I just love it. I hope I've sufficiently jazzed you up enough. I mean, I've got my whole Tom Clancy library down here. 2 full shelves dedicated just to Tom Clancy. He's my favorite thriller writer. I give The Cardinal of the Kremlin 10 out of 10. I give a lot of the Clancy books 10 out of 10 just because they're so dense, they're so filled with information about the world and our planet and our history with different countries. And you just can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong with the Tom Clancy book, folks. So thank you very much.